I am Jacob and I'm an alcoholic. So I have a sobriety date of July 17th, 2018. So, Lord willing, coming up on 4 years in a couple months, one day at a time. So, what it looks like, or what it looks like, what happened. Start with it's 15, 20-minute share. I don't like to give a long drunkalog. We've all been there. We know why we're here. It all kind of looks the same, different story, but kind of same outcome. We wouldn't be here any night if we didn't have to be. We're here because we need to be here. My life looked like I had a two-family home. My parents were together until I was like 19. We lived a really good life from all appearances on the outside. My dad worked two jobs, so we had a good income. So we got to take family trips. Everything looked great on the outside. I'd even have friends that would talk about how my parents were still together. We got to do these family vacations. So from the outside, everything looked great. But from the inside, I can remember from like 12, 13 years old, like not feeling okay. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know why, but I just knew something was wrong. I was a little bit of a late bloomer, I guess, when it came to alcohol. I didn't have my first drink until I was 19 because I also grew up in a super religious household where we did not keep booze in the house. But first time 19 years old at a friend's house party, was a blackout drunk, didn't come home that night, went the whole 9 yards. So it didn't take long before I went from 0 to 100 real fast. After that first time, I swore it off. I was never going to drink again. That was miserable. I had to go to class the next day. This sucks. And here I am. So, that didn't work. I had a loving mom. At that point, my dad had left, but my mom didn't even know I didn't come home that night. So that was also the first glimpse into I can get away with some things because my mom doesn't keep track of where I'm at or what I'm doing. So that was really when it kind of started. Fast forward to turn 21, I can buy my own booze, and I'm already doing all the things we hear about. Like, I'm still living with my mom. No booze is allowed in the house. I'm hiding it in the closet and under the bed and finding ways to get it into the house until I finally moved across state to Texas. And that was when my life started to go downhill real quick. Moved there, only knew a few people, didn't have a lot of friends or family out there. So I could do whatever I wanted. No one was checking in on me. I lived by myself in my own apartment. If I want to drink at 2 o'clock when I get home from work, I can drink at 2 o'clock. If I want to, I can drink as much as I want. And that just slowly progressed. Not really slowly. It took a couple years before my story. When I drank, I black out and I am a very depressed drunk and decide my life isn't worth living. So I have been, I skipped 5150 the first time, went straight for a 5250, and then was 5150 four more times after that, because one time's not enough for me to figure out like this isn't working. I started to be on a first name basis with the people at the psych hospital, which is not funny anywhere else except for in this room. I still wonder if they think I'm alive or dead. Like, I want to go back and check in and be like, hey guys, like, I'm okay. But that's where my drinking took me. I found AA that first trip to the psych ward. I got a big book, which I still use today, from some lady. I don't even remember her name, but I went up to her, didn't know how this thing worked, asked if she would be my sponsor. And she's like, yeah, no, but you can call me when you get out. Here's a book and I'll help connect you and find somewhere where you can go. I went to meetings off and on. That first stretch, I made it to day, I think it was 93, 94. 90 fell on like a Wednesday, and I couldn't relapse on a weekday because then I'm an alcoholic. So I had to wait till the weekend. 90 days, if I can control it 90, let me try this again. And then that was the cycle for the next year and a half, was 30, 60, 90, let me try again. Until my first God moment was, at that point, my parents had been separated for probably about 10 years. And I had started to open up to family members and friends at what was going on, like close people. I called some family members that fourth time in the psych ward, opened up about what was going on in my life. So I kind of broke that wall down a little bit. So that fifth time, when I disappeared again for a week, got out And about a day or two later, I immediately started drinking again because I was done, and got a text from my dad that him and my mom had just landed in Houston, and they were at my apartment, which I wasn't at. I was already back in the hospital, and they wanted to know where I was at. And that was my first like God moment. Why are my parents here and why are they together? Because they can't be in the same room. And they got on a plane together to come find me. And I am forever grateful for that day, because that was the moment that I really decided I can't do this and I need help. That's like when my true journey with recovery really started. We packed up as much as we could fit in my tiny car, including my dog and some clothes and anything I had that was semi-valuable, which was not much, and drove across back to California. My dad had already had a bed reserved for me at a rehab, hoping that I would come. From there, I went to rehab for 90 days. Well, I did a week detox because as soon as I admitted, sure, let's do this, the rehab told me I needed to keep drinking until I got there and was checked by a doctor and prescribed medication. So I don't remember much of the drive from Texas to California, because when a licensed professional tells me to keep drinking, that's all I need. It was bad. In my mind, this was like my last go. Like, if I'm going to check into rehab in 4 days, like, I don't want to remember the next 4 days. Like, let's just get there. From there, after rehab, it was suggested to me that I live in a sober living. Eventually agreed that I would give that a shot, but only for 90 days. If I did 90 days in rehab, I'll do 90 days in sober living, and then I want my life back. What that looked like was I lived in sober living for about a year and a half, because after I stayed for a while, I realized this was a really good place for me to be connected. And that's where Jeff and I met. I met a lot of my closest friends there. Some are still sober, some are not sober, and some are in and out, because that's what we do. And we're all there for each other. All of our stories and journeys look a little bit different. Prior to checking into rehab, I had done the 1, 2, 3 shuffle. I'd never got to step 4. Anytime we got to step 4 and I had homework assigned to me, I was not about to do that, because ultimately I didn't really want to quit drinking or do homework. I really just wanted to be normal. And I didn't realize for someone like me to be quote unquote normal, I needed to do this homework, because with stopping at step 3, I wasn't really learning anything about myself and the root of what my problems really were. So after doing that 1, 2, 3 shuffle multiple times, when I got into rehab and had nothing but time on my hands, so I could write my 4th step, drop my 5th step in rehab. And by the time I left, I was on step 9, so I could start making those amends. I actually made my first amends like the weekend before I left rehab. And the work continues. Like, I finished my steps, started getting sponsees. Right now, I have, I think, 1 sponsee that's really doing the work. I probably have more out there that are claiming that I'm their sponsor and will show up whenever they show up again. But I have 1 guy that's really doing the work, and that's always a huge blessing, because taking him through the book and hearing his perspective always gives me a new perspective. I've read that book so many times, and sitting down with a sponsee and them mentioning something that touched them while they were reading is always a blessing, because everyone gets something different, and I get something different out of it depending on where I'm at when I'm reading it. Some of the things I read in my big book that I was writing in there and highlighting at 30 days sober, I look back and I think that was what I was really concerned about at 30 days. Okay. But that's why we keep doing this, because it's a never ending process of growth. Like, we get to keep growing, keep learning about ourselves. I get to do that with my sponsees today. And for my sponsees that I have that do the 1, 2, 3 shuffle, I remember when I did it. And I'm there for them if they come back. I'm there for the next guy when they do the 1, 2, 3 shuffle, because someone was there for me. I remember those people. They probably don't know if I'm dead or alive or what happened to me, but they made a lasting impression on me. And that's what we do. We don't know what that looks like for them down the road. So we just keep doing this thing and reaching our hand out to the next person that needs help. And then my sponsor and I still meet all the time. We're going through a really deep 6 and 7 to then go into an 8 and 9, because, like I said, we keep doing this thing because we keep learning new things. My 4th step the first time had, I think it was 250 something names on it. It was out of control. Today, when I do a 4th step, if we hit double digits, I'm not doing something right. Not 250, but we're still living life. I'm not a perfect person. I don't claim to be a perfect person. And I'm super grateful for the people in my life that I have that I can lean on. Being on committees is always I've been on, this is the second committee. I was on PLAYPAA, which is Sacramento Young People in Alcoholics Anonymous. And we got to throw PLAYPAA, which was all California Young People in Alcoholics Anonymous. And being on a committee with that many people, my sponsor and I got real close because that's a lot of personalities with a lot of opinions. And being on a committee again, we're a new committee starting up, trying to find our footing. And I'm super grateful that I have a sponsor that I can reach out to and bounce ideas off, and people that I can reach out to who then, before we discuss, reach out to their sponsor, and we come together and have a conversation based on the meeting of the minds, because we don't have to do this alone. The hardest thing for me is I always felt so alone growing up. And today I know I have people I can reach out to. I know if the roles were reversed and I needed a chair last minute, I have people out there that I can say, I forgot, and they'd be there for me in a heartbeat. And that's something I never felt like I had growing up because I never knew where I fit in. And Alcoholics Anonymous gave that to me. Alcoholics Anonymous gave me a life that I couldn't imagine living. When I came in here and they say a life beyond your wildest dreams, I had some pretty crazy dreams. But as you stay here, you realize like what that means is your life gets so good, like it's not even something you could have dreamt of. Yeah, we can all dream of the mansion and the fancy cars and have some crazy dreams. Today, I have a good job. I'm going back to school and working on my master's. I don't do things like that because I can't stay sober long enough to pass class. But because of Alcoholics Anonymous, I can work a job, work on my master's, be in a relationship, and balance all of those things. Not always perfectly. And that's why we have people that we can talk to. That is a life I couldn't imagine having, because my idea of a life was a life on my own in isolation. Without AA, I wouldn't have that today. And I'm super grateful for this program. I'm super grateful for the people that I've met along the way that have helped me get here, and that I get to be that person for the next person that walks through those doors.